All right, time for my next invention. This is a guaranteed way to create mass amounts of energy. Guaranteed, no ifs, ands, or buts. So this one is pretty much just looking around at history and piecing together what I think is kind of obvious, to me at least. So I had the epiphany one day that if you just made solar panel pyramids, you'd be able to harness energy very well. I started learning about the pyramids and ancient history about the same time. And there's some alternative history that I think that we're not being told. And if you look at the pyramids, I think that they were covered in gold, because gold is a superconductor for electricity, and they use that gold as like a super energy device to harness energy. And from there, there's proof to show that mercury is prolific underneath the pyramids, and especially the Great Pyramid. And it's a recurring theme in other countries and other pyramids as well. So what I think is that they were coated with something on the outside, most likely gold, and that gold harnessed energy and put it underneath the solar panels into the mercury. And the mercury was like a battery, because the mercury will hold electricity, it will hold an electrical charge. And from there, maybe even using giant chunks of quartz rock on top of the pyramid to even harness more and pull from the magnetic ionosphere. This whole planet, there's a magnetic ionosphere that affects things much more than we know. We can't see it or touch it, but it's here and it affects us. I mean, look at radio waves, look at everything and how the world works. I mean, it's just a reality of the situation that we live in. Even rocks have energy, and you can harness energy from rocks. Quartz rock does create electricity, and even quartz watches, that's how they are run, from pressure put on quartz, a rock, and there's no battery and no nothing in there. So there's other elements and other things going on that we don't quite understand and aren't using to the fullest capabilities, I feel. Obviously, gold would be very expensive to cover a pyramid in, and very hard and extensive to do, but we have other means in which we could do it, and other ways, and we could definitely figure this out. We're pretty advanced, and I think that we could definitely figure out better ways of doing things. So from there, maybe put a windmill in the top of the pyramid, right in the middle of it, to generate wind energy. And if we build it up off the ground a little bit and have gutters going all the way around that catch the water, and from there channeling that water into a gravity device I have that is very efficient and using weight, and any weight going downhill, it uses gears and pulleys and stuff to make the most immense amount of power as possible and harness the power of weight falling, which would be water in this scenario, but you can use just about anything. And from there, I mean, in theory, this machine would produce so much power and over unity that you could put a pump in it and power the water to go back up and circulate around and produce over unity. And there's a lot of different ways that this would be so extremely efficient on all levels. And instead of using mercury, we could just use water and circulate it and electrify the water, or do some kind of way. I mean, even if it's battery acid, and we recirculate battery acid, and the pyramid sits in a pond, and it's just, that pond is basically like a giant battery, and just engineer it to be like a giant battery and set the pyramid right in it. And like I said, recirculate the battery acid right back up to the top with a pump it down, let it run all through the gravity machine and power the gravity device, and there'll be wind, there'll be solar, it will create mass amounts of energy. And that's basically my idea. I created the idea, and then I seen, well, you know, it's kind of correlates with what the Egyptians did and what the ancient technology might be possible of having created before. I'm not saying for sure it was a thing, but it seems like it was definitely a possibility. And the more ancient we go, the more advanced they become, even with their stonework and with everything we look at. The more we go back in time, the better they were at doing things, which kind of defies reality and what you would think. If we're evolving and becoming more advanced instead of de-evolving, then shouldn't it be the further back we go, the less evolved it is instead of the more intricate, like even with carving rocks and stuff and even building the pyramids. I mean, that's super hard geometrical equations that we had to figure out, or they had to figure out, and even how to build it so square, and the way they built all of it, and cutting the rocks and just doing everything. It was stuff that we can hardly match today. And it just goes to show that maybe we weren't as uncivilized as we have been told. So, I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just trying to throw out good inventions, and that is clearly a good invention that would work. There's no way it wouldn't. Coat a pyramid with solar panels, put a windmill in the middle of it, and put it in some kind of liquid that holds electricity and have it power itself, and put it in a gravity device that creates energy off water or weight falling. And you could make it all in one. And that's my idea on how to generate a bunch of energy and possibly try and help the world. We could put these in little towns and communities everywhere, and your community could just build one and try and create mass amounts of power for mass amounts of people, and just go from there. I appreciate everybody for keeping up. I'm up for trying to create freedom in this world. I give away inventions to try and hope that we can open source these energy inventions like this and help give us a way for freedom from energy dependence. And anything we can do to try and help give us that freedom is a big step in the right direction. And I think even locally we should be able to produce our own local power and provide the energy we need for ourselves, just in case the grid goes down or war or dollar collapse or anything like that happens. We need to be prepared locally in how to survive. And energy is an extremely important form of survival, whether it be electricity for our house or being able to travel or whatever we need to do. We depend on energy more than we know. We also depend on energy for travel and transporting goods and services that we rely on for life. So we need to be prepared to get by without these as well. And there's all alternative ideas out there. Henry Ford was running cars on hemp and building cars out of hemp in the 30s. And we could be growing our own hemp locally and running cars on hemp that we grow in our own towns. We could also be running cars on hydrogen and just simply splitting water into hydrogen and running cars off water. And there's a guy, Stanley Meyer, that was even doing it in a cylinder without even storing it with lasers and a mist and doing it right, replacing the spark plugs with water vapor misters and lasers to where it created a mist that turned into hydrogen that was able to power a combustion engine and run water right to your cylinders, which allowed you to run your car on water and have absolute freedom. And I think that that's what we need to focus on all levels, is putting the power back in the people's hands. And this is a way to put the power in people's hands, if you will. And that's what I'm just trying to achieve and figure out a way. I honestly feel there's a lot better ways out there, and they've been suppressed, and I'd just like to see them happen. And I'm just throwing out the best ideas I got in the hopes that others that have more efficient ideas will as well. So thank you everybody for keeping up. I appreciate you all. And I release an invention once a week. I'm going to be doing it for a year, so 52 weeks. I tell funny stories. I talk philosophy. I try and help the world all I can. I appreciate everybody for keeping up. Thanks, guys.